just in the last few moments, this jury of 7 women and 5 men have reached a verdict. They've found Shafee Elsheikh guilty on all 8 charges of which he was accused. They found him guilty of conspiracy to commit hostage-taking, resulting in the death of 4 American citizens, 2 journalists, James Foley and Stephen Sotloff, and aid workers, Kayla Mueller and Peter Kassig. They've also found him guilty of 2 wider charges of which he was accused: conspiracy to provide material support to terrorists and conspiracy to provide material support to a designated foreign terror organisation. That means that this jury believes they've heard enough evidence, they've heard enough witness testimony to believe that Shafee Elsheikh was a member of the so-called ISIS Beatles, that group of British men who travelled from London to Syria to commit these awful acts of holding 26 Western hostages, including the British aid workers Alan Henning and David Haines, before murdering them. They believe that Shafee Elsheikh, while not possibly involved in the direct murder of these individuals, was certainly involved in the hostage-taking which led to their killing. The families of those 4 American individuals were in court. All of them were crying at the moment that verdict was read out. The daughter of a British aid worker, Scottish aid worker, David Haines, who went to Syria to help the plight of individuals there, she was crying incredibly loudly as that verdict was read out. Those families have had to endure the most awful 2.5 weeks of testimony. They've had to go through something no family should ever have to go through. Videos were played in court of their loved ones' final moments, propaganda videos of beheadings, which those IS Beatles, those so-called IS Beatles, who were known by that name, they were given that name by their captives because of their British accents. They released those videos for propaganda reasons. They were played in court. There were also 10 hostages who were held alongside those murdered individuals, who also gave evidence during the course of this trial. They testified about random and regular beatings, waterboarding, choking, and it wasn't just the physical torture that these people had to endure, it was also the psychological torment that they went through. Just to give you one example of the horror we've heard about over the past 2.5 weeks, we were told that the hostages were forced to fight each other, that they were told to get dressed in smart clothes, given the impression that they would be released only to be driven to another prison. It really has been incredibly harrowing for these families, but finally they say they have some sense of justice in that Shafee Elsheikh was brought to trial here in the US. He's now been found guilty of all 8 charges of which he was accused.